Wow. I never thought I'd be sitting here knowing all this stuff. But I've got to tell you that God's great. And after you listen to my story, you'll understand why I'm saying He's great, okay? I'm a little tired. I woke up at 6 o'clock and then went back to bed, so I look horrible, which I don't care. So, anyhow, let me go on with my story. Basically, my identity was stolen by a family member so they could steal what was rightfully mine at birth. So, how did they do this? Well, they had lots of money because they got it off of me. They actually got a job at a health insurance company where they could look up and see not only where my health insurance was, but who my doctor was. And with this information, it was a family member. And with this information, they could contact my doctor and tell my doctor that I'm wacko and that I need to be locked up. So, I couldn't figure it out. I kept getting these things in the mail, which I still have, thank God, that say my medical information has been breached, and it'd be like a weird made-up company that I've never heard of. It's like I have another family member that's a computer wizard, and I think what he did was he made up a fake company, and then that fake company can't ever be held responsible. So that's how they were getting all my medical information, trying to find out if I was dying to know if they could keep stealing. So they've got this glorious life, and they stole my children, and basically every degree and every job that I got that was a good job, they stole everything they could from me. And at one point I looked at my name online, and there was one of me in Ohio, with my name, my first and last name. And about 2 years after they stole my identity, there was like 350 of me online. So the reason they did this is so that my kids couldn't locate me, because if you have a common name and there's a million people that decide to join hands with these criminals and say their name's the same as mine, how will your kids ever find you, right? So everything was done for a purpose, and then they even used my kids as pawns, and all the money they took from them was put in a trust, where they also were calling my kids, telling them they were me and that they needed money and could they send some. And I never asked my kids for money. I've never done that. I've never received any money from my kids. So this went on and on and on and on. And everything fits. From my sister-in-law that was in nursing school with me, that I fixed my brother up with. She worked at Good Sam Hospital, and Good Sam wrote to me and said my medical records were breached. Well, at the time, my sister-in-law worked there, so I knew it was her. Everything just fit, right? So then there was a bunch of false complaints put into children's services, and they got my kids taken away, and trying to say I was unfit, which with my oldest son I drank. With my second one I really didn't. I mean, not to the extent I did back in the 80s, So it's just that it's just a thing people go through. They go through this little drinking stage and partying stage, and they have kids and they settle down. So after my second one, my first one, I was only 18 when I had him. So I was the party girl. But then my second son, not so much. I didn't go out. I stayed home. I cooked dinner. You know, I did laundry. I did all that stuff. So now I find out that my cousin worked at the courts, and that is how they were getting all this paperwork filed. I didn't even know my cousins. Now I know why, because they were keeping me from knowing them so that they could do just what they did, because they knew the deep dark secret, which is probably the reason they tried to drown me when I was 10 years old. Because I remember when I resurfaced out of the water with ocean water in my lungs, my dad said, "You dumb effers," you know, that word. He said, "She's smarter than all of you. She's going to get everything." And I thought, that little word and that little phrase, that stuck in my brain. And no, I'm not trying to take anything away from anyone, or I just want them to tell the truth, and that's all I've ever wanted. And the sad thing is, I love my family, but they have proven to me they don't love me back, so it's not love. You know, love is a two-way street. If you love someone, you help them when they're down. Mine kicked me when I was down, so there was really no kind of love ever shown to me. I can't really remember anything nice they did, except after my dad died, they started sending me Christmas money and birthday money, which was not that much money, but I believe they did it out of guilt. And then when I moved to Florida, they called me and asked me for my address. They wanted to send me money for my birthday, and I said, you know, no, that's okay. I'm good. Every time I give y'all my address, all this weird shit starts happening. Well, thanks to Google, I think I have a lawsuit on them. They put my address online. And it's good for the fact that my kids could find me, but when you've got people doing the stuff that was done underhandedly to me, I deserve privacy for my address and my name. And, you know, it's gotten to the point where, you know, once I had all my credit cards and bank information on my phone, and my sister had someone steal my phone. And you say, wow, why would she want your phone? Well, it had all my banking information, it had all my credit cards, so I had to actually call them, cancel all the cards, and get a new phone. And the funny part is, my bill was paid. I told T-Mobile that I wanted my money back in my account, and I wanted, you know, at least the part I didn't use, like I had just paid my bill and then my phone came up missing. And they refused to shut my phone off. They refused to locate my phone. They refused to help me in any way, shape, or form, or get my money back. None of it. They're the same ones that double SIMmed my phone so she could see everything I was doing. And, you know, it's funny how, you know, for a time I was putting up videos and then I was taking them down thinking, they're going to use that against me. No. Everything I speak is the truth, and the truth shall set you free, as they used to say to me. So it almost feels like to me that something demonic took over my family. Like, these are not the people I grew up with. These are not. And then I start thinking back of my childhood and everything. I really don't have any good memories of any of them. I don't remember any of them helping me when I got in a bind. I remember many times in the winter my car wouldn't start and I needed to either get to work or get home from work, and none of them would help me. One time my sister's boyfriend was a mechanic and he fixed my car, and it was $400, which was my whole paycheck. And the next week the same thing happened. So he really didn't fix my car, he just charged me for it, which they kept me in this loop where they were flattening my tires, they were screwing up my air conditioner in my car, they were busting my heater. I remember one winter it was below zero, and I work at this grocery store and I was there like 8 years, right? And they went out of business, or I'd probably still be there. So I'm driving to work and I'm scraping the inside of my windows, and then at every light the outside of my windows. And it is freaking cold. And I don't have gloves because I'm poor, right? But not really. And I'm thinking back to all these things. I mean, it is unbelievable what God shows you. I had my eyes closed because I wanted to believe the best about my family. I wanted to believe they were loving people and that they really cared about me. But that wasn't the case. Everything they did was to make me feel horrible about myself, make me feel unloved, make me feel uncared about, so that they could get me to have a nervous breakdown. And if you don't think that I can sense a doctor that's normal the first 3 visits, and then suddenly when my address goes online and they find out where I live and who my doctor is, everything changes. And my doctor began saying really weird, creepy things to me, like, if you don't take these statins, you're going to have a heart attack or a stroke. Now, what kind of negativity is that? And then the other doctor, which they put me with, so they'd have 2 doctors to say I was crazy. I go in and I'm telling them about my stomach problems, that I have diarrhea and I'm sick, and I had it for 3 weeks. And so I go in there and I tell them that I asked for parasitic medicine and the other doctor didn't give it to me. But she wrote in the records that she offered it to me and that I said I was going to take herbs, and that's not what happened. I asked for ivermectin and they refused to give it to me. So then I had an appointment on Thursday, and I had a little download from above with God saying, don't go, it's a trap. And it wasn't 15 minutes after I had canceled this appointment the day before, and they kept sending me messages about that I needed to be at my appointment at 1 o'clock, blah, blah, blah. But it's not their number, and I look up the number on the reverse website, and it says, this is not a business, this number is unknown. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, so my family gets these 1-800 numbers, and they're telling me about my appointments so they can get me locked up and steal the rest of my money, right? God is good. You know, yeah, they really have done a number. And as much as I did love them, I gotta let them go. Family doesn't crush family members. They crushed me for 4 years. And God says no more. It's my time to shine, baby. And I'm shining. With that, I will close, and God bless.